Thank you for coming today. At this time, I would like to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University now stands. Grief is a consequence of love. Grief does not consider timing, capacity, or circumstance. Grief does not account for good deeds done or lives touched, nor laughs shared. On December 21st, 1988, our community grieved. And 33 years later, we still mourn, shocked by a senseless act of terrorism, the passing of time, unable to fully heal the wounds of losing our loved ones. But amid the pain and longing are memories, sanctuaries for our sorrow, comfort when peace feels distant, a warm reminder of a passing embrace. These memories, when made or shared, have life, new meaning. We look back on memories in a process of remembrance. This is why we gather. We gather to remember together, to revitalize together, to relate together, to alleviate the burden of carrying a legacy alone, to share company and reflect, reminisce upon moments and their significance, recounting tales of their love, the ordinary and extraordinary moments, however bittersweet. With life and love, grief will come, and in one manner or another it will remain. But just as the 270 victims brought light into the world, today we are reminded that our community acts forward, sharing their memories, honoring their memory. May we continue to find strength in each other, healing in grief, love in remembrance, and peace, today and all days. I would now like to introduce the Otter Tunes, performing Home I Am by George Mel.
is remembered for his warm smile, adventurous spirit, and musical talent. He was a loyal friend and a loving son. Although he is no longer with us, he continues to inspire others and bring people together. I lay this rose on behalf of Steve and act forward in his memory.
Kenneth John Bissett understood the importance of living a life filled with laughter, art, irony, and humanity. Wise beyond his years, he was an exceptionally gifted student and artist with a comic book series that highlighted his penchant for capturing both the real world and the fantastical one. For Ken, asking the why was just as imperative as learning the what. His inquisitive spirit and willingness to challenge the conventions of the world around him allowed him to create meaningful work that reflected his awareness. I lay this rose on behalf of Ken and act forward in his memory.
Luanne was a Dean's List student and one of the most talented and dedicated musical theater performance majors at Syracuse University. A passionate perfectionist, she filled her free time with practice and research, constantly seeking to elevate her performances to new heights. The stage was her entire world, and the world was her stage. I lay this rose on behalf of Nicole and act forward in her memory.
In the 6th grade, Theodora Cohen announced, "Theater is my life." And from that moment on, acting and singing became her highest passion and centermost goal. Forever the caring and thoughtful person, Theodora Cohen believed in theater not for its own sake, but she truly believed it could change people, societies, and the world around her. I lay this rose on behalf of Theodora and act forward in her memory.
Clever, and relished in a good political debate. He has a strong drive to pursue his passions and was described as someone who could turn any day into a good day. I lay this rose on behalf of Eric and act forward in his memory.
Like his twin brother Eric, Jason Coker radiated positive energy and could light up a room with a smile. He possessed a passion for current events and international affairs, channeling them through his involvement at the Daily Orange and University Library. He was an aspiring journalist and, as his friend put it, quote, "the first person to dare me to think about the world around me." I lay this rose on behalf of Jason and act forward in his memory.
Artist, a well-rounded athlete, and a respected brother of Sigma Alpha Epsilon. He is perhaps best remembered for his ever-present smile and genuine compassion for everyone he met. I lay this rose on behalf of Mary and act forward in his memory.
everyone who knew Scott Marsh Corey always said that he was smiling. He had an irrepressible sense of humor and loved Syracuse University so much that he dyed his hair bright orange one time. I lay this rose on behalf of Scott and act forward in his memory.
Gretchen Joyce Stater was a passionate, dedicated artist whose spirited disposition created community that followed her wherever she went. She sought to couple her artistic passion with her family's history of teaching to inspire a new generation of empathetic artists as an elementary school art teacher. I lay this rose on behalf of Gretchen and act forward in her memory.
Shannon Davis never outgrew the child in her. Instead, she embraced it and wanted to dedicate her future to working with children. With gentleness and enthusiasm, she welcomed life and always appreciated the small things. I lay this rose on behalf of Shannon and act forward in her memory.
On the stage, on the field, and in the classroom, Terhan Ergen embraced risk and adventure. His parents affirm that his philosophy is captured within the following lines, spoken by Teddy Roosevelt and chosen by Terhan as his senior quote. Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. I lay this rose on behalf of Terhan and act forward this memory.
John Patrick Flynn studied geography and economics and endeavored for a career in banking. He was a star athlete in football, basketball, and tennis. He was known by his family and friends for his kindness and generosity. In each of life's losses, he saw not defeat, but an opportunity to better himself and those around him. I lay this rose on behalf of JP and act forward in his memory. Pamela Elaine Herbert was a dual economics and sociology student at Bowdoin College and a Syracuse University abroad student. She was a young woman of incredible academic achievement, spiritual devotion, and human connection. I lay this rose in honor of Pam and act forward in her memory.
Karen Lee Hunt wrote this poem for a friend. Something has happened to keep us apart, but always and forever, you're in my heart. Someday soon, from now till forever, I'll meet you again and we'll be together. I'm not sure how and I'm not sure when. Together forever, somewhere my friend. I lay this rose on behalf of Karen and act forward in her memory.
Christopher Andrew Jones was the most loving son, brother, and friend. He was known by his friends as Shrub and brought laughter and fun into every room for his practical jokes. He loved music that wasn't quite mainstream, writing stories, and Boston sports. His plan to merge his passions post-graduation was specifically sports writer for the Boston Globe, marriage upon retirement, spent final happy days in Boston Garden, enjoying another Celtic dynasty. I lay this rose on behalf of Chris and act forward in his memory.
Julianne Frances Kelly is remembered by her family as someone who saw the humor in daily life, listened with a sympathetic ear, and believed that one person could make a difference. It would make sense that Julie pursued a degree in political science and public relations, seeing as throughout her life she was always referred to as a peacemaker. I lay this rose on behalf of Julianne and act forward in her memory.
Wendy Lincoln radiated beauty, laughter, and love. She was a dedicated friend, engaged student, and talented artist. Her friends remember her energy Wherever she went, she was always the one to strike up a conversation and connect with others. I lay this rose on behalf of Wendy and act forward in her memory.
Alexander Lowenstein, known by loved ones as Alexei, lived to surf and spread his love for adventure through his experiences. Upon graduation, he dreamed of becoming a clinical psychiatrist because he valued connection with others. His parents fondly remember him for his ability to fully enjoy life, to make us laugh, to draw his peers to him, to make us love him. I lay this rose on behalf of Alexander and act forward in his memory.
Suzanne Piazza was a patient, kind, and enthusiastic woman. She was a graduate student in the School of Social Work. Suzanne said she wanted to live life and not just exist. I lay this rose on behalf of Suzanne and act forward in her memory.
Richard Rick Monetti lived his life in its abundance and shared it through his writing. As an aspiring journalist, he documented his love for friends, family, and sports in his honest and humorous style. He is remembered as an enthusiastic individual who made life more enjoyable. The closing words of Rick's philosophy of life say, "Don't sit back. Make the most of everything. Do all you can while you can. Life is a one-time deal. The opportunity is here. Stop looking past it. Be aggressive, be fun, and go crazy. There's no reason to hold anything back, nothing to lose." I lay this rose on behalf of Rick and act forward in his memory.
Ann Lindsay Otenisak was a student at Western Maryland College studying social work. She had a passion for children and wanted to change the face of deaf education. Lindsay's mother is quoted as saying, "Lindsay was always looking out for people who needed her help." I lay this rose on behalf of Ann Lindsay and act forward in her memory.
Peter Pierce was described by his wife as a modern Renaissance man, an old-fashioned gentleman. He was an architect earning his second-level master's degree at SU. Peter's architecture was well known in Ohio and Florida. Determined, passionate, and creative, Peter had made a name for himself as founder of Pierce Design Group and PBG Architects in Ohio. What better place is there for a Renaissance man than Florence, Italy, where he was studying? I lay this rose on behalf of Peter and act forward in his memory.
Sarah Phillips quoted Emily Dickinson in her senior yearbook, "That it will never come again is what makes life so sweet." She was a lover of Shakespeare, an avid skier, and a friend to so many. Sarah had an enthusiasm for life, a smile as infectious as her laugh, and a beauty that radiated from the inside out. I lay this rose on behalf of Sarah and act forward in her memory.
Frederick Sandy Phillips was affectionately known as the Sandman. He loved poetry, music, skiing, camping, and even motorcycled across the United States and Canada. Beyond this, he was dedicated to giving back to his community and served as the vice president of the Student Government Association. I lay this rose on behalf of Sandy and act forward in his memory.
Louise Luanne Rodgers was a Maryland Institute College of Art student studying abroad through Syracuse University. Luanne enjoyed painting, sculpture, photography, interior design, and especially fashion. She was described as a vivacious, fun-loving, adventuresome, thoughtful, caring, and very loving young woman who was colorful and offbeat and did everything with style. I lay this rose on behalf of Luanne and act forward.
Thomas Schultz was a history and government major who decided to study in London because he considered it to be the birthplace of democracy. After graduation, he planned on becoming a lawyer. He was described as a sponge. Every experience, a piece of information you could give him, he absorbed. Determination, family, and ambition defined Thomas. I lay this rose on behalf of Thomas and act forward in his memory.
Amy Shapiro was known as a butterfly, enchanting everyone she met with her vivacious personality and free spirit. She dreamed of being a nature photojournalist and spent her time writing, taking pictures, or with her best friend, her mother. She was always there to make you laugh and be a shoulder to cry on. I lay this rose on behalf of Amy and act forward in her memory.
Cynthia Jones Smith was a talented artist, an avid shopper, and a sister of the Delta Phi Epsilon sorority. Her parents said Cindy's laugh came from her toes and bounced off the walls. It caused stern looks from teachers sometimes, startled looks from strangers sometimes, sent her friends off into spasms of uncontrollable giddiness most times, and rings in our family's memory for all time. I lay this rose on behalf of Cindy and act forward in her memory.
Mark Tobin dreamt of becoming a television sports announcer, a storyteller. He passionately chased this dream and many others with eternal optimism. He valued his family and friends above all else and led a life filled with genuine joy and love. I lay this rose on behalf of Mark and act forward in his memory.
Alexia Tesseris was a radiant soul. From her smile, her laugh, and as her 1988 Yes You volleyball team would say, her feverish joy of life. Anyone who knew her could feel her warm and compassionate spirit. Alexis loved photography, with plans to make a difference with her notable and promising photography career by helping to advance peace in our time while emphasizing how each and every one of us have the capacity and responsibility to do the same. May we be filled with the abundant love she left behind, be more compassionate toward each other, and take the first step in shaping our world in ways Alexis would have dreamed of. I lay this rose on behalf of Alexia and act forward in her memory.
Nicholas Andreas Vernios left for London with his 3 prized possessions: a camera, a guitar, and a skateboard. His smile and joy were celebrated by all who knew him, earning him the nickname Smiley during his semester abroad. In his writing and photographs alike, his appreciation for the simply beautiful and his sense of humor shine through. Among the collection is a portrait of him sitting by a desk with his camera, smiling with a glint in his eyes, and a note written to him after his passing by a friend. They said, "Nick was always laughing and having fun. That is what living is." I lay this rose on behalf of Nicholas, and I act forward in his memory.
Keisha Whedon served God by making improvements in the lives of others. She taught her classmates how to see color and acknowledge that everyone's experiences are different. She volunteered with refugee children at Swinbrook Nursery in London. She did all of this in style, changing her hairstyle every week. She operated in her purpose. I lay this rose on behalf of Keisha and act forward in her memory.
Miriam Louis Wolfe was an immensely talented musical theater major who had dreams of singing, acting, writing, directing, and helping out anyone and everyone she could. She lived every day with purpose and passion, extending warmth and encouragement to those around her as a fiercely devoted friend. My mother always said that Miriam, her best friend, would have been our #1 supporter in me and my sister's lives. And know that Miriam is the someone that watches over me and my family, and is still a guiding light for us and so many others. I lay this rose on behalf of Miriam, and I look forward to her.
Following Pan Am 103, Syracuse University formed an enduring relationship with Lockerbie, Scotland. 2 Lockerbie Scholars, in a way to memorialize this relationship, are chosen annually to study at Syracuse University. This year's scholars are Alicia Pagan and Lauren Carruthers. At this time, they would like to say a few words.
Living in the area surrounding Lockerbie has always been a pleasure. The quiet and close community we have established never fails to make me value home, especially after coming to Syracuse. Learning of the disaster that took place on December 21st, 1988 shocked and intrigued me as a child. I did not understand how something so huge could happen in a place so small. It seems so unlikely that an incident that shook the worlds of so many occurred in such a rural and unproblematic place such as Lockerbie. Going to Lockerbie Academy opened my eyes and personalised the disaster in ways I never imagined. Learning about and putting faces to names really hit home and made me realise how lucky we all are to be part of the Syracuse community. The scholarship that has been formed since Pan Am 103 is always something I knew I wanted. Coming overseas to represent our community and commemorate those lost always seems so rewarding. The loss of so many on December 21st, 1988 will never be forgotten in Syracuse, Lockerbie and the many other countries that were affected. However, remembering them through something positive such as the Remembrance and Lockerbie scholarships helps us heal a little bit more year after year. Lockerbie has many children, but it doesn't mean it hurts any less if one of them is lost. One lost child of Lockerbie was Andrew Mcloone. Andrew was a previous scholar just like Lauren and myself. He tragically lost his life while being here in Syracuse, living out the honour of being a Lockerbie scholar. Andrew will always be here with us and hold a special place in the hearts of the many he got to meet while here in Syracuse, and within our community at home in Scotland. I unfortunately never got to meet Andrew, but from what I've heard through the school community, he was a loving, kind-hearted, determined young man who tried his best for everyone. Although I never got to meet Andrew, I feel I know him and we would have formed a mutual passion and bond in remembering those lives lost back in 1988. Our two communities, both big and small, will forever hold a heartfelt connection through the heartache of what happened to the 270 victims on December 21st, nearly 33 years ago. This will not, however, stop us forming unbreakable bonds with people here to serve as a reminder we cannot be brought down by tragedy. Instead, we grow stronger. It's been a privilege to stand here and honour my hometown. I'd like to end with a quote that Andrew lived by and a quote we can all take into consideration for the future. Lift your face to the sun and the shadows will be behind you. I lay this rose on behalf of Andrew and act forward in his memory.
On the 21st of December 1988, Pan Am 103 took off from London Heathrow, heading to its destination of JFK Airport in New York. At the same time, people around the world were getting ready for Christmas, including the small farming town of Lockerbie. The Lockerbie residents were never to have known what their extremely close community was about to face. When the terrorist bomb exploded in the baggage compartment of the Pan Am 103, the plane was broken up in the sky and landed in multiple areas around Lockerbie. The disaster not only caused the loss of 259 souls on board, but also 11 residents of Lockerbie. The town pulled together through their grief and shock and slowly put itself back together after the disaster. If you walk down Lockerbie High Street now, which both Alicia and I have done thousands of times in our lives, the town looks nothing like it did almost 33 years ago, or in older photographs you might see when you Google Lockerbie. But the memory of the disaster is still very much alive. I have seen the patchwork covering the hole that had to be filled where an engine landed up at Rosebank. I've seen the patched up walls in Sherwood Crescent where the wings and fuel tanks destroyed where they landed. I've heard the stories of that night, as well as in the days after, from my family and my friends who remember that night. I've sat through and partaken in Christmas services where students who go to Lockerbie Academy are reminded what happened to their town in 1988 and continue to remember all 270 souls that were lost that night. I've also been given the opportunity of a lifetime. From this disaster, something so unique and incredible has blossomed. Alicia and I, like 62 other Scots before us, can stand in front of everyone here and represent ourselves, our families, but most importantly, the Lockerbie victims, as well as previous scholar Andrew Mcloone. As well as this, we bring a little bit of Lockerbie's love and compassion with us to physically be with you all during Remembrance Week, as well as throughout the year. I have learned so much in my experience as a Lockerbie scholar. I've laughed, I've cried, and I've come so far within myself since being here, particularly this week. I am incredibly proud to be here representing the Lockerbie I live in. I take this opportunity as a huge honour, and I will continue to spread the message of looking back and acting forward for the rest of my life. I lay this rose in the memory of the lost 11 Lockerbie residents: Maurice Henry, Dora Henry, Mary Lancaster, Jean Murray, Kathleen Flanagan, Thomas Flanagan, Jack Somerville, Rosalind Somerville, and 3 of the town's children: Paul Somerville, Lindsay Somerville, and Joanne Flanagan.
If anyone would like to lay a flower in memory of the victims, please come forward and do so now as Avery Head plays flower from Scotland. Chancellor Kent Severud and Dean David Seaman will begin the laying of flowers. Please take a carnation if you would like to. Now have closing remarks from Chaplain Amir Durr.
Today, we pause and humble ourselves in this sacred circle to remember all those who perished in the bombing and crash of Penal Flight 103. We honor their lives and remember their legacies. Their legacies inspire us to live the fullness of present life and turn toward the light in ourselves, in each other, and the world. Generations to come will rather tend to remember those who left the light as their legacy than those who contributed to suffering, mischief, and darkness. Ancient scriptures teach us that the life of a human being is more sacred than the sacredness of holy places. They also remind us that if anyone saved a life, it would be as they saved the life of all humankind. If anyone takes life to spread mischief on earth, it would be as they took the lives of all humanity. Today, we remember 270 innocent lives as 270 humanities, and we would confess that the years have not diminished their place in our hearts. We continue to remember and pray for them this day and every other day. May their souls know deep peace and everlasting joy. May their memories live forever, and their legacies transform a world of violence into one of peace and justice. Our Lord, we ask you to bless their families and loved ones, and bless everyone in this circle today, and make us a great support system for one another. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today in remembering and honoring the 270 individuals aboard Pan Am Flight 103 and all others lost to acts of terrorism. We invite you to join us in Hendricks Chapel for the Remembrance Convocation, which will begin at 3 p.m.